It's Mrs. Foltz again, and I'm going to read to you a story called Tselane. And Tselane is a story that comes from the country Botswana, which is in Africa. This is another one of our folk tales, a story that's told over and over and over again. And eventually, after being told for hundreds of years, someone wrote it down, and now we get to enjoy it. Well, this is the last story in this set of folk tales that we have been listening to. The first two were Little Red Riding Hood and Hugo Poe. Well, Ceylane is very similar to those stories, but it comes from a different country, so there are little bits and pieces that are a little different from those two stories. So as you listen, be thinking about ways that they are the same and ways that they are different from our first two stories. All right, we're going to get started. Once upon a time, in the southern region of Africa, where the Bantu language is spoken, there lived a girl named Ceylane. She lived with her mother and father. The family lived in a little round house with a thatched roof. One day, Ceylane's mother said, "I must go to the village for some things that we need. You may stay here, but be sure to keep the door locked. Watch out for hungry leopards who roam the land." What were her mother's instructions? To stay inside and keep the door locked and look out for hungry leopards? That sounds a lot like the girls in Hugo Poe when they had to stay inside and keep the door latched. Ceylane's mother set out for the village. Ceylane stayed home by herself. Ceylane had stayed home before by herself, and each time her mother would return and call out in her sweet high voice that sounded like the song of the Ataga bird. Ceylane, my child, her mother would call from outside the door. "I have brought you some food. Open the door." "That is my mother's voice," Ceylane would say. "Her voice is high and sweet, like the song of an Ataga bird." Each time, Ceylane would open the door and see her mother standing there. Her mother would always bring Ceylane some bread and porridge. Ceylane would then sit down and eat with her mother. One day, when Ceylane's mother had gone to the village, Ceylane heard a knock on the door. "Ceylane, my child," said a low, gruff voice, "it's your mother. I have brought you some food. Open the door." "That is not my mother's voice," said Ceylane. "My mother's voice is high and sweet like the song of the Ataga bird. Go away, you wicked leopard." The leopard went away, but he came back soon after and tried to make his voice sound like a woman's voice. "Ceylane, my child," said the leopard, "it's your mother. I have brought you some food. Open the door." "That is not my mother's voice," said Ceylane. "My mother's voice is high and sweet like the song of the Ataga bird. Go away, you wicked leopard." The leopard went away. He came back, but this time he drank a special drink that made his voice higher to sound like Ceylane's voice. "Ceylane, my child," said the leopard in a high, womanly voice. "It's your mother. I have brought you some food. Open the door." "That's my mother's voice," said Ceylane, "high and sweet like the song of the Ataga bird." Ceylane opened the door and saw the leopard. With a fright, she tried to slam the door shut again, but it was too late. The leopard stuffed Ceylane into a sack and carried her away, intending to take her back to his habitat in the savannah. After carrying the heavy bag for a while, the leopard stopped by a small stream. After traveling so far in the heat and carrying that heavy bag, he needed a cool drink. Rather than carry the heavy bag down to the stream, the leopard left the bag on the side of the road, as he intended to be away for only a short moment. The leopard climbed down the hill to the stream to get a drink. Let's pause there for a second. What does that remind you of, this leopard carrying the bag and leaving it beside the road? If you were thinking just like in Hugo Poe, where the tiger left the girls, you're right. This is a really similar story to that one. As soon as he was gone, a little girl came walking down the road. Seeing the bag along the side of the road, the little girl became curious, so she peeped inside. She saw some fingers sticking up and quickly closed the bag. "Whose fingers were those?" she asked. "Mine," said a voice. My name is Tselane. Please let me out. I am smothered in this small, hot place. Tselane, said the girl, why, your mother is my aunt. She has been visiting here in the village. The little girl let Tselane out of the bag. Then she and Tselane ran to get Celane's mother. When she had heard what happened, Celane's mother filled the leopard's bag with scorpions and snakes. When he had finished getting his cool drink, the leopard came back to the road and grabbed the sack. Then he set off for home. When the leopard arrived back at the savannah, he opened the bag, intending to start eating this tasty feast. Instead, angry snakes slithered out. Dozens of scorpions poured out of the bag, shaking their poisonous tails. The leopard put his great speed to work and darted or ran quickly across the savannah, never to bother Tselane or her family again. As for Tselane, she decided to always go with her mother to the village and follow her mother's instructions, and they all lived happily ever after. I hope you enjoyed this third story in the last set of folk tales that we've been listening to, friends. Tselane was a story that talked about a girl who needed to follow her mother's instructions. At first, she didn't listen and she got herself into some trouble. But just like Little Red Riding Hood and the girls Ashing and Li Hua in Hugo Poe, Tselane was able to be freed and got away from the evil leopard. Thanks for listening, first grade. See you later.